The 6.5 is on the road here at Lenovo Tech World in Las Vegas. It is day 2, right after the YY keynote in the Sphere. It was quite the experience, a lot of big announcements, but the strategic vision and luminaries really capped off the night.
Yeah, that night was in the stratosphere.
Exactly.
It was fantastic. We were out there. It was a wonderful
It
experience.
was a good experience, yeah.
Yeah. You like that?
You know what I loved about the event actually last night is, and it kind of came out there, the Sphere operates on Lenovo servers, hundreds of them.
No, I literally learned that yesterday as I was interviewing Dana.
Yeah.
Who is, behind that.
Yeah. And I love the fact that some of our competitors have had events in the Sphere, talking about infrastructure. And in the back of my mind, all I'm doing is laughing, saying, if they ever ask the question of what powers the Lenovo Sphere, it would be Lenovo.
I'm not allowed to laugh about those things, but I will laugh for you.
Thank you.
We typically have like this really regular routine on the 6.5, but I kind of like that.
No,
we just bring the guest in without, having to do our whole preamble. And it's not a guest that really needs introduction. He's been on the show, like 40 times?
Exactly. It's great. He's definitely a 6.5 favorite here.
Thanks.
Hopefully nobody else reads this.
Does this mean I'm going to get a chair next to you guys and it's going to be 3 of us?
I mean,
I've actually been trying to get out.
I've been trying to get AI to completely redo me, so I never have to show up. So we're definitely not there yet. But I think we should talk about AI. I mean, essentially, we've been all AI nonstop for the last 3.5 years, and it really did start in the big cloud with OpenAI and Microsoft, but it really hasn't fully made its way to the enterprise. It doesn't mean enterprises aren't using it, right? They're using ChatGPT. They've gone from experimentation to POCs. Some applications have, in fact, scaled, right, in a hybrid manner. But for the most part, we're really just going. I mean, dare I say that 98% of enterprise applications are still non-AI. Maybe there's a little bit more on the edge when it comes to things like security cameras, shopper counters, things like this. But it really hasn't hit yet. So good news, bad news. The good news is if you pick the right architecture today that doesn't lock you in, that meets your needs, that in the end you get those measurable improvements, and whether it's reducing costs, increasing revenue, improving stickiness inside of the organization, then you make the right decisions now. You're not going to pay for it later.
Yeah, and one of the things I've seen, Pat, is that decisions that were made on how AI architecture looks like today could not have been determined 2, 3, 4 years ago.
Sure.
The market has moved so much. The techniques have moved so much. It's not just AI is not just a software initiative. It is a complete architectural initiative within most of these enterprises. And it's so new. Today we're seeing a lot of things that are keyed as AI that are not new. You look at things like machine vision. That's been happening.
Yes.
It's accelerating now. It's accelerating. You have more opportunities for sensors and cameras and more processing power. But that's something that's actually been done, even Lenovo. If you look at kind of
back in the old days,
that's
machine learning on the edge, like
that's
8 years ago.
Exactly.
Like chatbots too.
Yeah.
I also think a lot of it's going to be about threading things together, right? So you had a number of different things that were machine learning, but like where an agent can actually have a workflow completely handled from end to end, rather than just kind of like the vision spewing a bunch of data back and it going, ooh, that rubber ducky coming off the line looks wrong. Stop the line. Like the whole flow of that could everything from getting the repair ordered, getting new materials brought in. Like that's where AI and agentic workflows become really powerful. But what you're saying is basically the problem is companies, and we've done tons of research on this, CEOs, CIOs, over the last few years, there's been tons of downward pressure, do AI, we joke about it here a lot, but also to show returns. And that's where we're at right now. But at the same time, you go talk to these people like, we're doing a lot of things. We're doing a lot of AI. How's it going? And I'm not saying it's all bad. Like, I think a lot of people are now starting to have things like, this is really cooking. But there's a lot of things that they're like, why am I not farther? Like what are you seeing there?
Well, I think it's a few things, right? And like you said, it's not, AI is not new in some areas of business outcome. if you looked at things like maybe smart retail theft detection, these are things that have been working with machine vision and analysis, but now it's just happening at a faster pace, which means you can have more throughput, which means you can actually have a better business outcome because you can react faster than the malicious activity. And so for me, seeing the speed of AI is something that actually is a good business outcome.
Yeah.
However, one of the things you brought up, Dan, there that I kind of wanted to go back to is when I look at, we want to do AI across our enterprise, and there's this assumption that, your AI has access to all your data. Well, if you don't set up the permissions the right way, if you don't set up the architecture the right way, if you don't look at where that data is and what you're trying to act on, you're basically going to really kind of create operations that are going to run in circles where you're not going to get to the true information you're trying to act on. And so for us, from a Lenovo perspective, we look at it as this is a complete re-architecture, a re-engineering of what traditional IT looks like, which means you probably cannot use what you've used before, which means that when you start doing your experimentation outside of SaaS or cloud-based workloads, now you have to start thinking, what is this AI journey going to look like from a compute, GPU, CPU ratio, from a security, from a network infrastructure, from a storage pipeline, from a data architecture standpoint, from a cloud to edge framework? All of those are questions that people need to start rethinking on how they're going to architect. And it doesn't mean that they don't have the imagination to rethink what it's going to look like. It's, do I have the right people to figure how to do this, which is going to create that new architecture.
You're seeing big talent bets though too.
Oh,
I mean,
talent
at the companies that have a lot of dollars, but it's happening all the way down. Like, getting the right talent in is it's not trivial either.
Yeah, no question. You look at the traditional, global service, integrators. They are making big bets around this right now because they want to have the talent. But then smart corporations are looking at, how do I get the right talent? And so there is definitely going to be a talent war. From a Lenovo perspective, we're making sure we have the right data scientists and architecture managers that can help people along their journey to say, hey, we can kind of be involved here from the creation to the business outcome to the result.
So what smart analysts?
There we go.
Yeah,
I know.
that's true too.
At least that's what we call ourselves. So what is it that breaks between these POCs and real business outcomes? And maybe you can talk about the real business outcomes. Be specific.
Yeah, here's a real business outcome. Was meeting with a manufacturing company yesterday here at CES, and they started off with an AI pilot. And the AI pilot was actually to detect in their manufacturing environments potential hazardous conditions. And what's interesting is in their AI pilot that they ran, they actually said, okay, well, we got a decent type of result.
Right.
And the result led to 98% accuracy when we started bringing it up to scale. Well, guess what? In a hazardous condition environment, 98% is not good enough.
It's like days without an accident.
Yeah.
Right? One is too many.
Yeah. And the problem is that the POC couldn't scale because the cost was too prohibitive.
Right.
But by the time they did the POC and they said, hey, we're, with a subset of one, we accomplished what we wanted. And then when you added 1,000, they did not accomplish what they wanted. And they said, you know what, we need to go back to the drawing board. And so part of this is, how do you actually architect at scale or test at scale so that when you implement at mega scale or real-time scale, you actually have what you're trying to accomplish.
So models are such a focus too, like build your own, open source off the shelf, use a frontier. And that's a big deal. I mean, any workflow. And by the way, models, a lot of people out there think a lot about them just through language. But I mean, there's video models. There's image models, there's models that can create music, but there's also like industrial models, like models for like autonomous driving is a model, like Tesla is a giant model at this point. There's models for healthcare, for discovery and diagnosis. There's and so if you want to be like a frontier company, you've got to kind of have a model, like you've got to do something. But like when you think about the day-to-day enterprise, you've got data flow, you've got connectivity, you've got to have the right systems designed. Like should those be more front and center focuses? Because like I said, I just feel like everyone's talking about, well, what model do we have to run on? And that seems like almost a high class problem.
Well, models are great to create kind of a baseline of information and an all-encompassing view of how do I act on it. What's not good is if you're a pharmaceutical drug discovery firm, you don't want to take a baseline model that has no expertise in drug discovery, because you're probably going to come out with some outcomes that are completely irrelevant for that organization. And so using models, the next step is how do we get to verticalized, focused models that are more streamlined, that are more targeted at what that business outcome of an enterprise is looking for. And I think that's what we're going to see over the next couple of years. I think you're going to see more specific models. I think you're going to see, NVIDIA's called them kind of their RAG models. There's even more specificity to those models that many enterprises are going to look for. And they may come to consultants and organizations to help them on their journey. Companies like Lenovo can say, hey, here's where I view the traditional models fitting. Here's where I look at more specific verticalized industry models fitting. But then even taking it to the next level to say, hey, here's a software provider that we may be able to bring in for you to kind of utilize through our AI Innovators program, and say, here's a very specific use case. Maybe it's credit card fraud monitoring, in micro slice time like we see out in Asia, where you see, so many people trying to get credit for cell phones.
Right.
And, if you don't have a application based off of a model that's very specific to credit monitoring for that type of, you're basically going to be spending way too much time and way too much money until you get to the point where like, hey, that's the solution I want to get to.
So as we bring this awesome conversation to wrap, I want to try to simplify here, which is, what is the one thing that separates organizations that have effectively scaled AI, they're seeing real business returns, versus those who are just stuck in pilot mode?
Don't underestimate the requirements of what that business outcome is, number one. Number two, make sure that when you are looking at implementation, don't skimp on the POC. Utilize resources to ensure that, hey, if we need to scale out, if we need to drive something as a POC in the cloud just for the time being versus putting it on-prem, don't skimp on what the POC is going to be, because you're going to need to re-architect so much of your solution anyway. Your storage, your networking, your compute, your GPU, in some cases your security. Make sure you're really kind of taking it, but also don't do anything too big, right? Don't try to take on the world. Have one successful project, one successful program, and then build on it. That's what's going to build the most credibility within CXO organizations.
Well, Vlad, it's great chatting to you about this. This is a topic that is probably going to see some progress in 2026, but I think we're going to still be fighting these demons for a period of time. It's just hard. And we saw decades of this with big data, with analytics, with Cloud One. Now we've got AI Cloud. But it's also a great opportunity for Lenovo, because you guys are going to be there side by side with all these enterprises. And of course, Pat and I are going to be there to analyze whether you're doing a good job.
Well, thanks. And honestly, I'll keep watching you guys because I learned from you, right?
That is how it works.
This conversation about IT is, how do we move the industry forward? And you guys do a great job of asking those questions. When I talk to CIOs and CTOs, I hear the questions as well. And it's a great place to collaborate, not to give out any industry secrets or competitive information, but for the industry to progress and get more efficient and better at this, so we remain in a sustainable operational way instead of wasting time, money, and energy. This is a great.
There needs to be a lot of alignment on that, just like cybersecurity.
Yep.
All right, well, Vlad, let's have you back again soon.
Awesome, great.
All right. And we hope to have you all back again soon. This has been great. Appreciate having all of you as part of our Lenovo Tech World 2026 coverage. Subscribe to the 6.5 and check out all of the other episodes here at Lenovo Tech World. And of course, all the great content on the 6.5. But for this episode, time to say goodbye. See you later.